My girlfriend screamed, "You'll never be good enough for me," at her party. I smiled and said, "Maybe you're right." Then I walked out. Hours later, her friend texted me. One sentence that changed everything. "Hey, Reddit. 3 weeks ago, I thought I had everything figured out. Turns out I was living in a carefully constructed fantasy, and all it took was one party to burn it all down. Buckle up, because this gets messy." I'm Ryan, 29, male, and until recently, I was in what I thought was a solid 4-year relationship. Met Vanessa at a mutual friend's birthday party when I was 25. She was magnetic, the kind of woman who walks into a room and immediately becomes the center of it. Worked in marketing for some tech startup, always talking about disruption and scalability and other buzzwords I didn't fully understand, but nodded along to anyway. The party where we met was one of those milestone birthday things. Jason, turning 30, rented out the back room of some trendy bar downtown. I'd gone reluctantly, already planning me exit strategy after showing my face for an hour. Then Vanessa arrived late, made some joke about traffic that had Avironi laughing, and suddenly I forgot about leaving early. We talked for 3 hours straight. She was fascinating in that way confident people are. She had opinions about everything and wasn't afraid to share them. Asked me about my job, my hobbies, my thoughts on whether the city was getting too expensive. I felt seen in a way I hadn't experienced at Bore. When she gave me her number at the end of the night, I felt like I'd won something. I'm an operations manager for a logistics company. Not glamorous, not sexy, but steady. Good benefits, decent pay, room for advancement. I coordinate shipments across 3 states, manage a team of 30 people, solve problems that most folks don't even know exist. The kind of job that lets you sleep at night because you're in it worried about whether you can parent next month. Apparently, that stability was eventually going to become a problem. Our first few months were incredible. She'd text me throughout the day with random observations or funny things she'd seen. We'd meet for lunch when our schedules aligned. She introduced me to restaurants I'd never heard of, art galleries I didn't know existed, events and happenings around the city that made me realize I'd been living in a bubble. She made me feel like I was part of something bigger, like my life before her had been in black and white, and she'd added color. We moved in together after 6 months. Her idea, actually. She said it made a financial sense that we were spending every night together anyway, so I maintained 2 apartments. Made perfect sense to me. Found a decent 2-bedroom in a good neighborhood close to her office. Reasonable commute for me, nice building with actual amenities. The rent was $2,400 a month, which we split evenly. At first, I remember thinking it was steep but manageable. The apartment was everything Vanessa wanted. Hardwood floors throughout, big windows with good natural light, a balcony that overlooked the courtyard, update kitchen with granite counters. Chatted about it like it was an investment in our future, our launching pad for the life we were building. That arrangement lasted about 6 months before things started shifting. Subtle at first, just 1 month here or there where she'd ask me to cover her half because something had come up. "Babe, can you spot me this month? I'm investing in this professional development course that's going to really accelerate my career." She showed me the course materials, explained how it would help her climb faster at work. Made sense. Then it was, I'm putting everything into building my network right now. These industry dinners add up, but they're crucial for making connections. Can you help me out just until my next bonus hits? Again, seemed reasonable. She was hustling, making moves, investing in herself. Except the bonus never quite covered what she said it would, or there'd be another crucial investment opportunity. Or her car would need repairs, or she'd have to travel for work, and the expense reimbursement took forever to process. Always something, and I kept saying yes because I thought we're a team, because I believed in her career trajectory, because saying no felt like I was being unsupportive of her ambitions. Within a year, I was paying 70% of the rent consistently. She paid 30% when she could, and I covered the difference without complaint. Did the math recently. Over 2 years, my extra contributions totaled nearly $18,000 just in rent alone. But it wasn't just rent. Vanessa had ideas about how our apartment should look. No hand-down furniture, no Craigslist finds, no making do with what we had. Everything needed to be curated, intentional, that kind of place you could photograph for social media and have people buy impressed. The Italian leather couch that dominated our living room. $3,200. I paid for it. She picked it out. Spent hours researching the perfect shade of gray. Insisted we needed something that made a statement. I remember the delivery guys struggling to get it through our doorway while Anna sat erected them like she was choreographing a ballet. The 65-inch mark mounted on the wall. $1,800. Also me. She'd argued we needed it for movie nights and streaming. That her old 40-in from college was embarrassing when we had people over. I'd thought movie night sounded nice, so I agreed. The espresso machine that took up half our kitchen counter, $2,400. Everyone who matters has good coffee at home, she'd explained. It's about the experience we create for guests. I'd pointed out that we could get perfectly good coffee for a fraction of the price. She'd looked at me like I'd suggested Westart shopping at thrift stores. I paid for that, too. Looking back now, I can add it all up with perfect clarity. The couch, the TV, the espresso machine, the dining table that needed to seat 8 comfortably. The bedroom furniture that couldn't be from IKEA. The artwork that held the room together. The kitchen gadgets that mostly gathered dust. I was looking at close to $20,000 in furniture and household items I'd paid for to furnish our shared space according to our vision. But it was our home, right? Our life we were building together. That's what I told myself every time I transferred money or swiped my card. I should have seen the other signs, too. The way she'd introduced me at her work events. This is Ryan. He's in logistics, with this tone that made it sound like he drove a forklift instead of managing a complex supply chain operation. The way her eyes would glaze over when I talked about solving a major routing problem, but I was expected to be fascinated by every detail of her latest social media campaign strategy. The comments that seemed like jokes but had edges. Ryan so practical. He probably has a spreadsheet for everything. My boyfriend is very risk-averse. He likes things predictable. Ryan's idea of excitement is reorganizing the kitchen cabinets. Always delivered with a laugh. Always in front of other people. Always making me feel like I needed to defend my personality. Her coworkers treated me like I was lucky to be there, like I'd somehow tricked Vanessa into dating down. I'd overhear conversations at company happy hours. I can't believe she's still with him. Or she could do so much better, or he's nice, but that butt carried a lot of weight. The late nights at the office became more frequent around 6 months ago. Trevor really needs me on this pitch, she'd say, referring to her boss. We're so close to closing this deal. I just need to put in hours. I believed her because why wouldn't I? People work late. Careers require sacrifice. I thought I was being a supportive partner. I'd text her around 8 p.m. want me to save you some dinner. She'd respond, already at the office. Don't wait up. I'd wake up at 2 a.m. to find her side of Thebes still empty. Then hear her come in around 3 o'clock, moving quietly through the apartment. When I asked about it in the morning, she'd be irritable. Do you want to succeed or not? These hours are part of the job. Then came the Monaco comment. 3 weeks ago, she mentioned at a fan that her company was sending a team to Monaco for some international mark conference. Trevor and a few of us are going. It's going to be insane. Yacht parties, networking with European clients, the whole thing. Weenie asked if plus ones were invited. Shellowed. Not a kind laugh, the dismissive kind. Babe, this is work. Super high stuff. Probably boring for you anyway. You'd spend the whole time calculating the exchange rate instead of enjoying yourself. There it was again, that edge that made me feel small. I should have known then. Should have asked more questions. Should have trusted the instinct that told me anything was wrong. But I didn't want to be that guy. The insecure boyfriend who can't handle his girlfriend driveling for work. So, I smiled and told her to have fun. Asked her to bring back something from Monaco. Tried to be cool about it. The party happened 2 weeks later, the night everything exploded. Vanessa's company had just closed some major deal with a client in Seattle. The details didn't matter to him, but it mattered to her. She wanted to throw a celebration at our apartment. Just a small thing, she promised on Monday. Maybe 15 people, some drinks, celebrate the win. By Wednesday, maybe 15 people had become probably closer to 25. By Friday, she was texting more dates. So, a few more people heard about it and want to come. Probably 30 now, but it'll be fine. The apartment is big enough. The day of the party, I spent 8 hours cleaning and setting up. Vanessa had a crucial client meeting that mysteriously ran until 6 o'clock p.m. So, I handled everything solo, scrubbed both bathrooms until they sparkled, vacuumed every surface twice, moved furniture to create better flow for people to mingle, set up the bar area with all the expensive glassware she'd insisted we buy for hosting. I made 3 trips to different stores. The regular grocery store for ice and mixers, then the fancy liquor store across town for the specific brands of spirits she wanted. Then back to a different store because apparently their regular ice wasn't good enough. She needed the clear ice that melts slower and looks better in photos. Made sure we had enough of everything. Enough cups, enough napkins with witty sayings printed on them that she'd order it special. Enough of those little wooden skewers for garnishing drinks. Set out bowls of fancy nuts and imported chocolates. Arranged the cheese boards planned with meticulous attention to color and texture. By 7:00 p.m., I was exhausted, but the place looked perfect, like something out of a magazine. Vanessa got home at 7:30, dropped her bag by the door, took one look around, and her first words were, "The lighting is all wrong. We need more ambience." She spent the next 20 minutes repositioning every lamp in the apartment, while I tried not to feel completely dismissed. Moved the floor lamp from the corner to beside the couch. Decided that was wrong. Moved it back. Turned off the overhead lights. Turned them back on at half brightness. Turned them off again. Nothing I'd done was quite right. "This is supposed to impress people," she muttered, adjusting a table lamp for the fourth time. First impressions matter. People started arriving at 8, not 15 people, more like 35. Her coworkers, some friends I'd never met, a few people who looked like they'd stepped out of a startup founder magazine. Everyone was dressed like they were at a networking event, not a casual apartment party. Designer jeans and blazers, expensive watches, shoes that probably cost more than my car payment. I felt underdressed in my dark jeans and button-up shirt. The outfit Vanessa had approved earlier, but that now felt completely inadequate. I played host, refilled drinks when glasses got low, made small talk about the weather and weekend plans, laughed at jokes I didn't quite get about company politics and industry drama I wasn't part of. Vanessa was in her element, floating from group to group like a hummingbird, telling animated stories, getting louder and more theatrical as the night went on. She barely acknowledged me except to make requests. "Ryan, we're out of ice." "Ryan, someone spilled something in the bathroom." "Ryan, can you turn the music up?" I was staff at my own party. Around 1000 p.m., I was in the kitchen refilling the ice bucket for the third time when I heard her voice cutting through the background noise of conversation and music. Honestly, I didn't even know why I'm still with him. I froze. The ice bucket felt suddenly heavy in my hands, the cold seeping through and making my fingers ache. I looked up and could see her through theater weight to the balcony standing in a circle with 3 of her co-workers. 12 men I vaguely recognized from companion events and a guy who I think worked on her team. One of the women said something I couldn't quite make out. Vanessa laughed, not her genuine laugh, the performance laugh she used when she wanted people to think something was funnier than it actually was. "No, seriously," she continued, her voice carrying, clearly now into the kitchen where I stood frozen. "Ryan is nice. Like is very nice, but nice doesn't pay for a lifestyle. You know, nice doesn't get you into the rooms that matter. I need someone who matches my energy. Someone was actually going places instead of just existing comfortably." The ice started melting against my palms. Water dripped onto my shoes onto the kitchen floor. I couldn't move, couldn't look away, couldn't process what I was hearing. The guy in the circle said something that included the word stable, and Vanessa actually snorted. "Stable is just another word for boring. He's been in the same job for years. Same routine, same conversations, some everything. Do you know he still uses a paper planner? Like, who does that?" Meanwhile, I'm building an actual career, making real connections, creating opportunities, and he's just there taking up space. One of the women said something about loyalty, and Vanessa waved her hand dismissively. "Loyalty doesn't get you a corner office. Loyalty doesn't get you invited to Monaco. I need someone who understands ambition, who gets what it takes to actually succeed instead of just coasting." That's when she saw me. Our eyes met through the doorway. For maybe 2-3 seconds, we just stared at each other. I waited for the embarrassment to register on her face. The shame, the panic of being caught talking about your boyfriend like he's a disappointing apply and you're planning to return. Instead, she looked annoyed, like I was interrupting something important. I set down the bag of ice on the counter, walked over slowly. The conversation on the balcony had stopped. The 3 co-workers looked uncomfortable, suddenly very interested in their drinks. The conversations in the living room behind us started dying as people sensed something was happening. The music suddenly seemed too loud, too cheerful for whatever was about to happen. Vanessa's jaw tightened as I approached. She knew I'd heard. She knew he'd been standing there, and she didn't care. I walked onto the balcony calmly, set the ice bucket down on the patio table next to them. The 3 co-workers scattered like I'd announced I had a contagious disease, suddenly remembering they needed to be literally anywheres. Now it was just me and Vanessa standing on our balcony with 30+ people watching from inside through the glass door. Anything else you want to say? I asked quietly. Or was that the whole performance? She crossed her arms, chin raised defiantly. You weren't supposed to hear that, but I did. Well, maybe you needed to. Maybe I'm tired of pretending. The honest cruelty of it took my breath away. No apology, no embarrassment, just irritation that I'd caught her. Then she said it loud enough for everyone nearby to hear, clear enough that there was no mistaking the words or the intention behind them. You'll never be good enough for me. The balcony went silent. The conversations in the living room stopped mid-sentence. Someone turned down the music. I could feel every single person at that party looking at us. 35 pairs of eyes waiting to see what I'd do. Whether I'd yell, whether I'd cry, whether I'd fight back. My chest felt tight. My hands were still wet and cold from the melting ice. Part of me wanted to explode, to match her volume, to defend myself in front of all these strangers. Part of me wanted to disappear into Thefler and never exist again. Instead, I smiled. Not because I was happy, because it was the only way to keep my face from showing what I actually felt. Because if he let the mask drop, I'd either break down or break something, and neither of those options was acceptable. Maybe all right, I said softly. Then I turned around, walked through the silent crowd of people who all suddenly found their shoes very interesting, grabbed my keys from the bulb by the front door, walked out of my own apartment without looking back, without another word, without giving her the satisfaction of seeing me break. The hallway was mercifully empty. I made it to the elevator, pressed the button, waited behind me. I could hear the part resuming, tentative at first, then louder. Someone turned the music back up. Life moved on. I got in my car and just drove. Windows down despite the cool night air. Radio off, phone on silent. I didn't have a destination. It just needed to move to put distance between me and that apartment, that party, that woman who just eviscerated in front of her entire social circle and didn't seem to care. I drove 4 hours through neighborhoods I didn't recognize, down highways I'd never taken, past closed doors and empty parking lots and 24-hour diners where people lived their lives completely disconnected from my disaster. The city gave way to suburbs. Suburbs gave way to emptier roads. My gas gauge dropped below a quarter tank, then to the warning light. Around midnight, I found myself near the airport and pulled into the first budget hotel I saw. One of those generic chains where every room looks identical and the lobby always smells faintly of cleaning products and burnt coffee. Paid cash for a room, ignored the night clerk's curious look at my lack of luggage, and got a keycard for room 237. The room was exactly what you'd expect. Double bed with a comforter that had seen better days. Small TV bolted to the dresser. Bathroom with white tiles and fluorescent lighting that made everyone look sick. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall for what might have been 20 minutes or 2 hours. Time felt weird. Eventually, I plugged my phone in and turned it back on. Watched the missed notifications roll in like an avalanche. 47 missed calls by the time it stopped counting. Over 100 texts. The voicemails kept coming. That little Reddit just growing and growing. Most were from Vanessa. I scrolled through them without opening, just reading the review text. The progression was almost funny in how predictable it was. 8:47 p.m. Where are you? 9:15 p.m. People are asking about you. 9:52 p.m. This is ridiculous. You need to come back. 10:33 p.m. We need to talk about this. 11:04 p.m. You're being childish. 11:58 p.m. Answer your phone. Then they got desperate. 12:22 m. Ryan, please. 12:45 m. I'm sorry. Okay, can we just talk? 118 of you can't just disappear like this. A few are from people who'd been at the party. Awkward messages that ranged from, hey man, you okay? Tio. That was intense. What happened? 2, dude, that was brutal. Every suddenly had opinions and concerns. Ignored all of them except one, Sophie, one of Vanessa's friends from college, someone who'd always been decent to me. We'd never been close. She was Vanessa's friend. Not mine, but she'd never treated me like furniture either. Never acted like I was lucky to be in Vanessa's orbit. Her text was simple. Hey, I know you probably don't want to talk to anyone right now, but I think you should know something. Can I call you? I stared at that message for a full minute. Part of me wanted to ignore it. To ignore everything, to just exist in this anonymous hotel room and pretend the outside world didn't exist. But something about Sophie's tone seemed different. Urgent, but not dramatic. I texted back, not ready to talk. Just text me whatever it is. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. I watched that pattern repeat for times, each cycle making Mistomac tighter. Whatever she had to tell me, she was struggling with how to say it. Finally, her message came through. You know what she said after you left? My stomach dropped. I could imagine 1,000 things Vanessa might have said, each one worse than the last he typed back. What? Her response took maybe 10 seconds, but it felt like answer. Like waiting for test results. Yep, no, will be bad. She said, good. Now I don't have to break up with him before the Monaco trip. Trevor is going to be so much easier to deal with. I read it 3 times, then a 4th. Then I got out of bed, walked to the bathroom on legs that felt disconnected from my body, and splashed cold water on my face while trying to process what I just learned. Trevor, her boss, the guy she'd been working late with for 6 months, the guy who was 42, married with 2 kids, drove a Tesla, and wore designer suits, the guy who was taking her to Monaco. The guy who was apparently easier to deal with than me. Easier to deal with, like I was a problem she'd been managing. I sat on the edge of that little bed for 20 minutes just staring at me phone. Then I did something I'm not particularly proud of, but I'm not sorry for either. Vanessa and I had a shared cloud account for photos and documents. We'd set it up when we moved in together. Convenient for sharing apartment stuff, vacation photos, recipes she wanted to save, that kind of thing. The login was my email address. The password was something we'd just integer. She'd never changed it. I'd never had a reason to look. I logged in my phone. There were the usual folders I expected. Apartment documents, vacation photos, recipes, random screenshots. But there was also a folder I didn't recognize created about 9 months ago. Work events. Something told not to click it. That same instinct that tells you not to read your partner's messages, not to go through their phone, not to become the kind of person who spies. But that person, the trusting boyfriend who respected privacy, felt like he died on that balcony 2 hours ago. I clicked it. The first photo was from what looked like a hotel room. Vanessa and Trevor, his arm around her waist, both holding champagne glasses, both looking very comfortable, very familiar, the kind of comfortable that comes from more than a professional affections. The timestamp said Miami 3 months ago. I scrolled more photos, different cities, New York, Chicago, what looked like San Francisco based on the Golden Gate Bridge visible through a hotel window. In every photo, they were together, sometimes with the third co-workers in professional settings, sometimes just the two of them in decidedly unprofessional situations. The body language got progressively more intimate as I scrolled back through time. His hand on her lower back, her head on his shoulder, the two of them lolling at some private joke. A Fatouf room service breakfast with 2 plates, 2 coffee cups, 1 hotel room, 9 months. The timestamps went back 9 months. This had been going on for 9 months. I sat in that hotel room and went through every single photo methodically. Took screenshots of the most damaging ones. Noted dates and locations. Built a timeline in my head of every time she told me she was working late. Every weekend team building event. Every business trip I'd supported her taking. Every time I'd encouraged her to pursue her career, even when it meant less time together. All lies. Every single one. The Miami trip in February. She told me it was a client pitch that only Trevor and 2 junior associates could attend. The photos showed her and Trevor on a hotel balcony at sunset. No other co-workers visible. The New York trip in March, supposedly a rush project with insane deadlines. The photos showed them at a Broadway show dressed up looking like any other couple on a date. The Chicago trip in April, another client emergency. The photos showed them in matching hotel bathrobes doing a champagne toast. I felt sick, not just at the betrayal, thought it was crushing, but at my own willful blindness. How many times had I noticed said something off and talked myself out of suspecting anything? How many red flags had I filed away as paranoia? I didn't go back to the apartment for 3 days. During those 3 days, I lived in that little room and started planning. You ordered delivery from places nearby, watching the same 3 streaming shows in repeat without really seeing them. I called out sick from work. First time in 3 years. I'd used a sick day for something other than being actually sick. But mostly, I planned, no revenge. I wasn't interested in dramatic gestures or public confrontations. I just wanted to make sure that when this relationship ended, which it clearly would, I didn't get destroyed in that process. I wanted to make sure I came out of this with something left. First call, a lawyer. Found one through an online search of family law attorneys. Looked for someone who specialized in unmarried couples dissolving shared households. Made an appointment for Monday morning. When I arrived, the office was professional but not intimidating. Just a regular suite in an office building. Nice furniture but not ostentatious. The lawyer's name was Patricia Chen. She was maybe 50. Professional but not cold. Listened to me situation without judgment. I explained everything. The apartment, the furniture I'd bought, the rent I'd been covering, the affair I'd discovered. Showed her the screenshots from the cloud account. Do you have a documentation of your payments? She's bank statements, credit card records, receipts for the big purchases. I can get all of it. She nodded approvingly. Good. The apartment is in both your names, which complicate things. But if you can prove you've been paying the majority of expenses, you have leverage. The furniture and household items you purchased are legally yours. You have receipts proving purchase, so ownership is clear. Waited for an hour about my options, the process for removing someone from a lease. What constituted proof of financial contribution. How to protect myself from false accusations, apparently common in breakups, she told him. She advised me to document everything, keep all communications in writing from now on, avoid any situation where accusations could be made without witnesses or proof. I left her office with a plan and a retainer fee of $2,500. Money I didn't particularly want to spend, but money that would protect everything else I'd built. I spent the next 2 days documenting everything, went to the bank and printed out twiers of statements, went through my credit card accounts online and downloaded every transaction, organized by month, pulled up my Venmo history all those times she'd requested money for her half of rent or utilities or groceries that I'd paid without question, made spreadsheets, organized everything by category and date, created a timeline of expenses, rent, my contributions versus hers, utilities, same breakdown, furniture and household items, every receipt I could find, every invoice, every delivery confirmation. The numbers were staggering when I finally added them all up. Just in rent alone, where I'd been covering 70% for 2 years, my extra contributions totaled $17,920. Add in the utilities I'd fully paid for the past year because she said her bonus would cover it later, another $2,800. The furniture and appliances and household items, $19,600 that I could prove with receipts. I was looking at nearly $40,000 that I'd put into our shared life that she had contributed to. $40,000, the down payment on a house, a new car, a year of freedom to switch careers if I wanted. All of it poured into maintaining a lifestyle she'd wanted but couldn't afford, supporting a relationship she'd been cheating on anyway. I also went through her text messages, the ones had sent me over the past 6 months, found a pattern I'd missed while living it. Every time she'd worked late, every time she'd had a weekend team event, every time she'd traveled for work, they all lined up with the photos in that cloud folder. Working late with Trevor in the Seattle pitch, photo of them having dinner at a steakhouse, date stamped the same night, team building weekend in Chicago. So boring but necessary. Photos of them in that hotel room, nowhere near a conference room. Early morning client meeting. Don't wait up. Photo of them having breakfast together at 10 a.m. clearly having just woken up. She'd been documenting her own affair, probably for her own worries, never thinking I'd see it. The arrogance of it was almost impressive. On day 4, I finally went back to the apartment. It was Tuesday afternoon, middle of a workday, which meant Vanessa would definitely be at the office. I texted her that morning, the first communication since I'd left, just saying I'd come by to get some things while she was at work. Her response had been immediate. We need to talk. I didn't triply. The apartment looked like a hurricane had hit it. The party mess was everywhere. Empty bottles and glasses, plates with dried food, someone's jacket draped over a chair. The special clearance I'd bought had long since melted in the bucket. The carefully arranged cheese aboard was a dried-out disaster. Apparently, Vanessa hadn't bothered cleaning up after everyone left. I started packing methodically, clothes first. Everything I owned went into garbage bags since I hadn't brought suitcases. My laptop and work stuff. Important documents from the filing cabinet. Photos from before Vanessa, my family, my friends, my life before her. Left behind any photos of us together. As I was packing, I heard keys in Thelic. She'd come home early, probably get my text, and decided to ambush me. Vanessa walked in and stopped short when she saw me. She looked rough, hair not styled like usual, wearing sweatpants and a company hoodie instead of her normal put-together work outfit. Her eyes were red and puffy, like she'd been crying. The place was still a disaster around us. Where have you been? She's setting her bag down. Her voice was different, smaller, less certain. I've been worried sick. I continued folding his shirt. Have you? Of course I have. You just left without saying anything. You told 35 people I wasn't good enough for you, I said, keeping my voice level, calm. What exactly did you want me to say? She bit her lip. And for a second, I thought she might actually apologize, that she might acknowledge what she'd done, show some remorse, act like the person I'd thought I knew. Teeny was just venting. You know how I get when I'm stressed about work. There it was, the excuse, the deflection, making it my fault for taking offense instead of her fault for giving it. Which part was venting? I asked, still folding clothes methodically. The part where you said nice doesn't pay for a lifestyle. The part where you said I'd never be good enough. The part where you told strangers I was boring and taking up space. Which specific part should I have been cool with? Her expression changed. The fake concern evaporated like it had never existed. Her face hardened, jaw set, eyes cold. You were eavesdropping. You were talking about me 10 feet away at me own party. She crossed her arms defensively. Look, I'm sorry if your feelings got hurt, but you've been coasting for years, Ryan. I'm out there building an actual career, making real connections, creating opportunities, and you are just comfortable. You're fine with being exactly where you are, doing exactly what you've always done. I need more than comfortable. I need someone who matches my ambition. I nodded slowly, still packing, acting calmer than I felt. Does Trevor match your ambition? Her eyes went wide just for a second. Just a flash of panic before she caught herself. But I saw it. The confirmation. Who told you? She stopped herself immediately, realizing she just admitted it. It's not what you think, really. I pulled out my phone, opened the cloud folder, and held up a photo of her and Trevor in matching hotel bathrobes. Clearly in the same room. Clearly not working. What is it then? Her face went white, then red, then back to white. Her mouth opened and closed like she was trying to find words that didn't exist. Sophie showed me. Illied, deciding to protect the fact that he'd accessed the account myself. Let her think someone betrayed her. Let her feel what that's like. We're co-workers, Shetrid, but her voice was shaking now. Those were work events. You're taking things out of context. You're buying paranoid and seeing things that aren't there. I pulled out my phone again, started scrolling through more photos. Miami in February, New York in March, Chicago in April, San Francisco in May. 9 months of work events where you and our married boss just happened to share hotel rooms. She stared at me like I just spoke in a foreign language. Get out, I said quietly. This is my apartment, too. Actually, I pulled out folder Patricia had prepared. Copies off the lease, copies of my bank statements, copies of every payment I'd made. According to the lease and the payment history I've been documenting for the past 4 days, I've covered 70% of the rent for 2 years. That's nearly $18,000 beyond my share. So, here's what's going to happen. I set the folder on the counter between us. You're going to pack a bag and leave tonight. You're going to find somewhere else to stay while we figure out how to break the lease or get your name removed from it. You're going to take your personal items and nothing else. And if you fight me on any of this, if you try to make this difficult or spread lies about me or do anything vindictive, I'm going to send these photos to HR at your company. Her mouth fell open. You wouldn't. I looked up your company's employee handbook. It's publicly available on your website. Very transparent, very modern. Lots of information about your corporate values. There's a very thorough section about fraternization policies between supervisors and subordinates, specifically. Prohibits relationship chat. Could create conflicts of interest or appearance of favoritism. I'm pretty sure your 9-month affair with your married boss qualifies. She was shaking no. Whether from anger or fear, I couldn't tell. Maybe both. You can't doubt this. I have rights. I've been living here for almost 4 years. You've been living here rent subsidized for 4 years while I paid for everything and you slept with your boss. My lawyer says I'm being generous by giving you time to pack instead of just changing the locks tonight. She stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time, like that person she dismissed as comfortable and boring had suddenly become someone she didn't recognize. Try me, I said softly. She left that night, threw some clothes in a suitcase, grabbed her toiletries from the bathroom, called Samine, probably Trevor, maybe Sophie, maybe her parents, and was gone within an hour. I watched her car leave the parking lot from our balcony, then went inside and deadbolted the door. The apartment felt different with her gone bigger somehow, quieter. I looked around at all the furniture I'd paid for the life we'd built that turned out to be built on lies and my money and felt something I didn't expect relief. Next morning, I called a locksmith before coffee. By 10 a.m., apartment had new locks. Cost me $280, but worth every penny. Changed everything. Deadbolt, knob lock, new keys. The locksmith didn't ask questions. Probably saw this all the time. Called the landlord, explained the situation professionally, wanted her off the lease. He said he'd need documentation, that she voluntarily left, that nothing was being contested. I said I'd handle it. 2 days later, Sophie called. You need to hear this, she said, voice tight with anger. Vanessa's telling everyone you were controlling, that you monitored her spending, isolated her from friends, made her feel trapped. That sick feeling hit realizing someone's actively destroying your reputation. She posted this whole story on her private Instagram. Sophie continued about finally escaping a toxic relationship, finding courage to leave people reading it up. Everyone's commenting how brave she is. Sophie screenshot everything from Vanessa's private accounts. The post was a masterpiece of manipulation, carefully worded to sound vulnerable, while painting me as emotionally abusive without providing actual examples. He made me feel like I couldn't breathe. She'd written like every decision had to go through him first. I lost myself trying to be Waith wanted me to be. The comments were predictable, friends rallying. Everyone praising her bravery. I wanted to respond. Wanted to post the photos, thebling statements, the receipts showing what actually been controlling Juan. Patricia told me to wait. Don't engage. If she escalates, then we act. Right, no. Responding makes you look guilty. So I watched friends I'd known for years suddenly view me with suspicion. Watched my reputation dissolve in real time. Then Trevor made his critical mistake. He commented on Vanessa's post, something supportive about being there for her healing journey, how strong she was. Nothing overtly romantic. Butanian paying attention could read between the lines. Someone must have looked him up because within 24 hours, multiple people reported both of them tore. Anonymous tips, probably co-workers would suspected the affair, but never had proof. Vanessa's public post comes with Trevor's comment triggered an internal investigation. The investigation took 2 weeks. During the time, I broke my lease, paid the $3,000 penalty, found a smaller place across town. No bad memories, no ghost of who I'd been with her. Here's where it got beautiful. HR didn't just find evidence of the affair. They discovered Trevor had been approving inflate expense reports for Vanessa's trips. Every one of those work events had been funded partially by fraudulent claims. Miami, New York, Chicago. They'd been systematically stealing from the companion about $15,000 over 9 months. They both get fired on the same day, Thursday afternoon. Escorted out by security with boxes of their personal items. Vanessa tried calling when it happened. Left a voicemail. This is your fault. You're in my life because you couldn't handle me being successful. I hope you are happy. I deleted it without listening to the whole thing. Block had her number. Done. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come.